What's good, guys? It's Ilson4K, and you'll have to pardon the impromptu background here. I'm actually in the middle of filming all my Halloween stuff, and to break down that set right now would require a lot of effort and strength. So just do this. I don't want to spoil the set that I have. And speaking of not spoiling things, this is a non-spoiler review. We're going to talk about Stream just really quickly. We're going to talk about what you have seen. I'm not going to tell you anything about what you haven't seen. I'm just going to tell you how awesome the whole damn thing is without spoiling it. And that's pretty much the basis of this whole affair. And that's hard for me to do because, you know, I like to break things down into sections. But anyway, I guess I'll just start off right the gate. It was fucking awesome. Fucking awesome. Again, this is a film that I happen to have lived in the area where it was not too far from where it was filmed, and I met some people that were involved with it in 2022, and that was a long time ago, and now it's finally here, and it lived up to all the hype that I had been told about it, that I had been reading about it, and that I had been shown about it, and it is fantastic. The whole concept of people being hunted inside of a contained area they can't escape is not a new horror thing at all. I mean, there are films about that in the black and white era. I believe the one that might come to mind is The Man Who They Couldn't Hang. That was the original one of those. You got your Saws. But this is something entirely all its own while being extremely modern and creative with the storyline. Of course, as you saw in the trailer, this is a film about people stuck inside of an area where they can't get out, but apparently it's part of a game where it's also being broadcasted to the world through the dark web, which is a thing we all know about. And they're really clever about how they set it up and make it so that way this whole storyline actually makes sense. Like, there's a couple of like campy and cheesy plotline moments where you're like, that would never have worked in anywhere but this film, but that's the magic of it. This film is really just an old-fashioned grindhouse film with its own vibe and affairs brought up to a modern day standard. There's nothing about it that isn't clever. There's nothing about it that isn't witty. There's nothing about it that falls flat. There's nothing about it that really is underwhelming. It was a fantastically fun film. Some people might say it's a little too long at 2 hours, but I thought it was just perfect. I like this whole Hollywood norm, not just in horror movies, but movies in general, of a 2-hour film. I don't know, maybe maybe I'm one of the rare ones that like that, but this was really good. This was something that just paced itself perfectly. I think one of my favorite things about it is the uniqueness of every actor. And speaking of actors, I will not spoil any of the people that are in this. I'm not even going to tell you the ones you have seen in the trailer because it's just so cool how many faces just show up and you're like, and how many people, you know, die. And speaking of dying, I want to just say the killers who do the dying, if that makes sense, are all so awesome. They're so individualized and on their own path. You have player 1, 2, 3, and 4, and each one of them is their own unique thing. And as you saw in the trailer, you have player 2 and 3 who seem to be skipping along merrily. Player 1 seems to be on his own, and player 4 is, of course, this hulking individual of a giant that looks like he absolutely will smash and kill people to death in a matter of seconds with his bare hands. And if you think that doesn't happen, well, like I said, this isn't a spoiler, but come on now. One other thing about it that's really fascinating is the special effects. These special effects in this film were fantastic. Done by Damien Leone, of course, who we all know from the Terrifier franchise. This is really something else. The gore effects are starting to have their own style to them because we've seen this kind of gore before from this type of individual. And it's interesting to see how we're seeing things that carry over in a familiar yet completely fresh and new manner. And what's really cool is after the film, they show you how some of it's done. So make sure you stick around after the film as well, especially for some really cool possible teasers that I don't want to spoil either. Because again, I'm not trying to spoil anything. I'm just trying to let you know you need to see this film right away. We have the other idea, the fact that this is really, on a whole unrelated note that maybe some people know and maybe some people don't, this is a really big W for the indie horror community and the indie filmmaking community. This is a film that has no studio backing. It has nothing behind it that is majorly promoted, such as Universal or New Line Cinema or anything like that. This is completely an independent film, and it's really cool to me that I was privileged enough to meet a lot of people who worked in front of and behind the camera on this film, and I've had the privilege of actually working with them on some smaller films myself in the last year or two, and it was a really big victory to be sitting inside of this gigantic movie theater, a real-life movie theater, and seeing the names of people that you really root for and work and want to see achieve their dreams and grow and flourish be up there on the screen. You know, it's amazing. This is something you need to see, not just to support horror, but to support indie filmmaking, because this is a limited release, and it kills me that I'm a day late on this trailer. Sorry, everybody, but it's just something that really is magical and special, and it means a lot to everybody who was a part of this team. If you go out and see this film right now and just take your friends, if you're into horror and you're into unique things, this is really the film for you, and that's the best way to describe it. And I'm sorry I'm all over the place with this, but I normally do all this stuff in structures, and I don't really have structures right now. So this is just going off the cuff, and I really suggest, like, again, you just get tickets and go see the film. It's done filming in theaters by the 25th, and I don't know how you'll be able to see it after that, so you definitely need to go see it. And don't forget, like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Catch me every 9 p.m. Thursday night, twitch.tv/ILLTV4K, streaming for the Total Terror-thon Thursday, where I play horror video games. And don't forget, this is ILLTV, where if it's pop culture, you know it pops up here. You're watching ILLTV, where if it's pop culture, you know it pops up here.